Anyway, thanks again, Mr. Rules. Really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Thanks, Charles. Thanks. Anyway, without further ado, if I could introduce you to our speaker tonight, who's come all the way from Poland.
Actually, he was here, so I do not travel just to be.
It's
because of the weather, I actually was tempting to go just because of the meetup next time.
He's the head of tooling for Scala, I believe, at VirtusLab. Is that right?
Tooling and Scala. I will explain that.
Yeah,
it's a complicated.
So yeah, over to our speaker, Krzysztof, who's going to talk to you about how Scala is made and how you can help. Over to you.
Thank you. So to be honest, when I was coming here, I was thinking that the only first time that we do here is it's like my first time here. But it turns out that it's like first time since pandemic and so forth and so on. So I'm actually quite glad that I actually wrote asking, hey, can we do a meetup together? So yeah, thank you for coming. And I will tell you a bit about like how Scala is made and how you can help. And just I should actually put the disclaimer in my the description of this presentation. You will probably not see any code in this presentation. So sorry, I'm not. I wish I can show you how I code and like anything fancy, but because I'm the running few stuff, I actually need to stop coding. And it's a complex. I mentioned I'm not the head of Scala tooling. I'm head of tooling and Scala. So basically, I got two brains. I'm joking. I have like red and the green brain. One is for like Scala, and because what I'm doing is like I'm overseeing all Scala projects and also Scala open source that we do at VirtusLab. And the other part of my brain is doing all about like developer tooling. So it's green because VirtusLab is like colors is green, but also we specialize in Bazel that is green, so we really color must. Not wasn't the reason why we're doing Bazel. And we're also doing a lot of like IntelliJ stuff. I can talk to you about that, but it's not related today. Yeah, that's it. I think we can go. And first, we can start with a little bit of a history. So I was like looking how Scala was around, because Scala is for a while. So basically, Scala 1 was released around 2004. That was this fancy PFL logo back then. Sorry for not having a better resolution, but it's really hard to get some people where I have. And back then, it was Martin and his team, and doing, he basically did the generics for Java. And he figured out we can do better, and he did Scala. Thank you so much, Martin, that you did it. And over then there was like many iterations and so forth and so on. But I don't want to go into like what was in Scala. As I mentioned, it's not the technical talk. And let's jump back, and we are now in like Scala 2.9. And there's like a few things that came. Like the last thing is like I was younger, and I was basically at the time I started doing Scala. But that's not important, because in 2.11 a really important thing happened for Scala. The typesafe was founded, and the typesafe was founded to be the commercial like sort of entity that drives Scala. And we need to give them credit because they did. Since 2011, Scala skyrocketed. It's like, especially around 2015, 2017, 2018, the growth was like really big. Also because of Spark, but Spark happened because like, there was this investments from Lightband. Sorry, Lightsafe. And actually, I spoiled my next slide, because my next slide is first thing is like Scala 2016. It's actually quite interesting that the only release of Scala that year was Scala 2.11.8, which is sort of, I don't know, nothing happened. Everybody was preparing for 2.12. But like first Lightband changed, like typesafe changed to Lightband. Everybody back then, I don't know who was around 2016. A lot of people, were you scared that Lightband will completely
I worked there at the time.
Okay, so
typesafe.
Yeah, were you scared that because of the name, like you will go away from Scala completely? Because we were like in the community, we were scared so much. It doesn't happen.
They kind of did.
Yes, but they still got Scala team, so we need to give credit for that. And also the other thing that happened is the 2016 Scala Center was founded. So Scala actually got like, let's say, third leg. So one was Martin and his team. Then there was a typesafe and Lightband later, or like Lightband/typesafe, and Scala Center. So Scala got like non-profit organization that community can support it to run it out. And let's move back a little bit. So I figured out that it's sold, so I can make like a proper photo of Martin this time. And in 2021, Scala 3 was released, and for many, it was like really scary event, because Scala 3 because by pure coincidence, Scala 3, Scala 2, Python 3, Python 2. So everybody was scared. We have much more tools and much more we're much better prepared to do the migration than on the Python side. And also we got types, which makes everything easier because most of our problems is at the final the compile time. But Scala 3 is really important, maybe not that much for the community, but it's really important for me because back then I was driving the Scala at VirtusLab, and we actually managed to make something and be the fourth organization that supports Scala, starting with Scala 3. And yeah, so this gets us to the last sort of Scala version I want to say from last year, that is Scala 3.3, and that's the first and only so far Scala long-term support. I mean, one can say that 2.12 is the longest term support, but it was never designed as one. It is sort of just happened. But Scala 3.3 is designed by us LTS. So what that means? For me, Scala 3 is important. It's way too late. I wish we have something like Scala 3 in 2014. And my sort of, I can just only make my guesses now. But if we solved binary compatibility, I don't know, by 2.12 migration, then I think Scala will be much bigger now. Because it, for people, creating the compiler and everything, I mean, okay, we need to move on, we need to adapt. So let's change the version. And because of resources and pushing and also academic backgrounds, a lot of things, the big thing that Scala 3 bring does not happen. And also, Scala 3 is founded by 8 years of development and research. Dotty and things, what to put there and how to do it is a really big thing. And also, it was a little bit slower because Scala is the only few languages that actually have somewhat proven type system to be sound. Versus, for example, Kotlin, that there is a proof that type system in Kotlin is unsound, but it works. It works. So theory and practice. Anyways, and LTS is you should say, okay, why binary compatibility backward compatibility, binary and source now? Because Scala 3.3 introduced the missing piece. Because if you have the backward compatibility, which means when you are anywhere here, you can use in your code anything down the line. And if you're on the 3.x, you can use anything in between. We are proper versioning for language now. But there is one problem. You are maintainer of, I don't know what is your favorite library. Zio, Cats? Maybe you can show hands. Who is for Zio? Okay, who is for Cats Effect? Okay, so let's say that not to cause any kind of infighting direction, we are releasing Tapir. That suffers all. And where I should put Tapir on this line, and it was unknown. So that's why there's one reason to give library authors a safe space where they should put their libraries. And that's why LTSs are for, because LTSs are supported from the very supported along this line. So LTSs gets updates, no changes in terms of functionality, but keep being supported. And we have these LTSs. There might be the new one coming in. And also, there are some companies, because of the Scala history, they're really scared changing version. So that is why we have the message for him, go to Scala 3.3, you will be safe there for at least 4 years. And then you will have at least a year to migrate to a newer version. And that is why, for me, Scala LTS is a huge milestone. There is for personal reasons, because I was involved in designing it. I was pushing and convincing people is a good idea. So you tell me if it was worth or not. And also, I have links to many things, and I put here the QR code so you can scan them and go there. But you don't need to do this, because I will try to send over my presentation, and then you can just click in the QR code and shoot the link. So I don't know where, but I will send the slides, because there might be some more reading out, and I'm really going through this. As I said, I will not go really into the details, because I think there are much more smart people than I am to actually to do it. So I mentioned the next LTS. So I just before coming here, I figured out I would gather around. I know some people, maybe they will tell me something, and I got some rumors that we might have new LTS next year. It's not promised, do not quote me on that, but there is a good chance that this kind of tree, I mean, it was 2 years, so it should be now, or next year. By the end of the next year, we might be close to get the new LTS. There's also some saying about Java 2021, but Don't quote me on that. Just gossips. I was not there. And yeah. And actually, in order to get that, to get this binary compatibility, to get the source and binary compatibility, there is, especially on the source compatibility, there's hardly a tool or hardly a process that can give you that, because like Scala is simple if you look at this, but also really complex, just because it's designed in the way that it has so many features that are like sort of not really depend on each other. So we can combine them across multiple, so that like, let's say solution space for Scala has multiple dimension, which means like getting all possible combination of how they are used and sort of predict on that really hard. And in order to get the source compatibility, you really need to try hard. And what we do is actually, it's a bit simpler now, but what we do is actually, we have this new community built for Scala. I mean, it's not new, it's around for quite a while. But what we try to do, and we are doing for each of the releases, we build everything, literally everything that is on the Scala decks, and some more things that are not on the Scala decks that use the Scala tree. And basically, if anything breaks, the team, I mean, you need to trust me on that, but the team is actually looking on any compilation change that breaks stuff. And we had something like this in the Scala 2, but this is bigger because it is use live version and code. We run even a lot of the tests. And yeah, so, and most of this code, or a lot of this code is like on really old versions, like 3.1, 3.2, 3.3, and they still compile with the latest version of Scala, which sort of give us the feeling that, okay, the Scala is stable, and also we don't have that many complaints from the community that the Scala is unstable.
Can I ask?
Sure, go on.
The community build, you're only building the projects, you're not running test suites on them.
Running, the problem with building the community is that the proper way to run the test, you will need to run in their own like configuration.
Okay.
And getting those projects to compile was not that simple.
Yeah.
And getting tests to run and be successful as well. And there is one more thing. One of the biggest problems in the industry right now is flaky tests.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No.
Okay.
What?
It's like, you know, some people say deny.
You retry to build enough times, that goes away.
Also, you run it once per night or so?
We ran it once per night, but it was not really, like, we don't get much changes in between runs.
Yeah.
So we for sure run between each release and once a week, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh.
It's like, you know, that takes hours, like literally hours. So, you know, the team figured out, I think at one point, there was no point running tests like day by day, because when you start the test next day, the previous one hasn't finished. So yeah, I mean, we have a lot of Scala, and also this because like we want to be close, we can't really optimize the process how the code is being built, because like if we were to put all this code in monorepo, I think it would take like an hour or two to compile. But you know, I'm also like a really big monorepo fan, so I might be wrong.
I've been using Scala 3 for a while now and following the releases, and it's amazing how stable it is. Like just a few changes, everything working. It's a
Yes, there's like
shift from the Scala 2 versions that used to be more.
I mean, Scala 2 has different, like, you know, promises in terms of how the versioning works. And in 2.13, the version that you got also stability, but the problem was between versions. And I spoke with people, like I was at BazelCon a few days ago, and I was trying, like, you know, I got two brains, so I was starting Bazel and then like, are you using Scala? And a lot of them is like, Scala. And I was asking like, why? And they're like, we need to do cross builds. And until recently, there was no cross builds in Bazel, so for Scala, so that was pain because they were like not getting benefits; they only got problems from Scala. So yeah.
So can I ask one question? So I also think to remember that some software projects were thrown out of the community build if they didn't have maintainers who would react. Was it Scala?
I mean,
or Scala Z or so? So basically, you depend on a team or these so committed developers if a compile breaks.
I don't know.
Get up to speed and fix it quickly. Right?
I mean, I don't know what if you are referring, because we don't throw that much projects from Scala 3 community build.
Yeah.
and also like there is like a change in the way how the build is set up.
Yeah.
Because I think for the previous one there was like really SBT only, or almost SBT only for Scala 2, and there was this tool that was called debuild. Maybe Lightband, ex-Lightband people can can help me with this. And there was like a bit of more effort to keep them all aligned in terms of versions. And also there was that there's the idea that to use like when you compile a project X, you want to use it in your follow-up projects.
Mhm.
So the way how it was set up in Scala 2 was that all of the versions in all the community builds sort of need to align. And in Scala 3, we actually take different approach because we force SBT to treat our repository as Maven Central, more or less.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So basically, we are like we can publish. Let's say there is Tapir version X. We are compiling it with the latest Scala version and publishing it as Tapir version X. So everything that uses that will pick it up that way. So that is why it's much simpler to maintain. And we also really because there was by the time where we were setting up the community build, there was one of this kind of drama, and sort of this imaginary reason for the drama was that some project was kicked off from the Lightband's community build. And we wanted to design the build in the way that takes like humans factor away. So it's like we really want to have like objective reason, like because there are some projects that we do not like, we still compile, but we basically ignore the problems because those are the projects like for early like 3.3. There was few things that was introduced by accident in Scala that broke, and they were like we just fixed them, and those project was depending on those. So we cannot support because they was like depending on bugs. So yeah, but we don't want to get to the point that that even like somebody like look at us and say, okay, you remove my projects from community build because you don't like what we do. Yeah, we really want to be sort of the code is the code, and we want to compile the code because we really want to validate compiler. It's not about giving credibility or anything. We just really want to be sure that the Scala tree works for everybody. Yes. So this brings me to the 3.5, which is like the latest version. And so in 3.5, there's not so many changes, but I will speak about those because I really care about all three. So first one is actually not I don't have specific slide for it, but like are you using metals? So since 3.5, we get this best effort compilation, which means we are finally are able to address the biggest problems that metal has. Namely, if your code does not compile, you got hardly any help from metals. With 3.5, that changes because we are able to sort of recover and provide basic functionalities for the code. Of course, if you have a main class or like trait that is applied everywhere and that one doesn't compile, you will not get much. But if you have a body of a method that types doesn't match, most of the things should work. It's still fresh, so there still might be bugs, but at least we get this foundation to make it really stable and actually bridge probably the biggest gap that metal has. There is another one that is really hard to cross, that is the instability of loop, but I don't want to talk about this. That's sort of that's the topic that we close in the closet and pretend it does not exist. Of course, I'm joking, but yes, it's a hard problem to crack.
Deny.
Exactly. So the second one is actually a pretext for me to talk a bit about compilation speed. Is the compilation speed a problem for you? And to be honest, if I just teleport back to 2013 or 2014, and I will tell people, hey, I'm just for the future, and you wouldn't believe me, the compilation speed is not a problem for Scala. They will kick me off from the building. Because back then, I mean, I can imagine because I actually, when I was doing the slide, I always make typos, so I was type like 2011 rather than 2211, and rather than type like 2021, I started typing 221. Anyway, the 2.11 version of Scala was probably the slowest one to compile. There was amazing effort, and I need to actually give credit because Lightband team did a lot of effort to actually, and also community, and some companies I know but I cannot name, to speed up the compilation. And Scala 2.13 is like super fast to compile. And I hope we will get even better with Scala 3, namely because the compiler not being that optimized and fast was one thing, but overusing shapeless derivation or custom macros or stuff like that makes things super slow. And in Scala 3 we got derivation, So it should be like centrally controlled by the language, so we can make it sane. So we don't need to count or somebody like, there's this joke that some guy in the Nebraska maintain all the stuff. So we don't need to sort of, put the blame or just one person writing this macro that everybody's using. And in Scala 3, it gets even better because we got pipelining, so we can start compilation before the other one finishes. It was there in Scala 2 as well, but we got it back in Scala 3. And my favorite thing that happened in 3.5.
One question on the pipeline. So I remember it's just 2 or 3 years ago, Odarsky gave a talk about the internal architecture of the compiler,
Yes.
that they introduced micro pipelining, if I remember that word correctly. That they had a compiler devised into really large number of stages, but then they brought them back together into. But your pipeline, you're talking about something different.
Yeah. So I hope I will try to put, because I got some ideas what you are referring to, but this is more about like we have multiple phases, but in order to save, because like one of the hard things about phases is that it goes to like process all of the AST. And with like micro phasing, you will batch this processing into sort of like processing, like let's say going through a tree once,
yes.
but you're doing for like multiple phases.
Yes.
And that's sort of a, like optimization how the compiler work. So it just like speeds up, let's say your code compiles in like 11 seconds rather than 10. This pipelining is like you have a, let's say the simplest example is you have your main application and your tests. And normally where you just compile your main application and then run your tests.
Okay.
With pipelining, you can compile the compilation and like midpoint in the compilation slightly more than a midpoint. Just after typer, the Scala can produce, and this is actually what this does. There was a few things that needs to be added. It produced tasty, which is like the source of true for Scala compiler. And once this tasty is done, of course, like compiler needs to do some more stuff, but tabs and the top level APIs are finalized. So the downstream compilation can start from that very point.
Okay.
So we basically save, these two things are made in parallel. Actually, I wish I have a picture for that. And as you can see, there's like a slide from Jamie talks from Scala days in Seattle. You can get quite a nice boost up, and this is from like probably one of the best assets that we have in Scala community, that is Lichess. We got enterprise grade applications that got tons of users, it's completely open source. And we were like, we are in touch with them because they were like quite early Scala 3 adopters. And those people are like super nice. So like big kudos to them. Yeah, and the third feature and the third new thing is Scala CLI. And Scala CLI is out there for sure, but Scala CLI becomes the Scala launcher. So when you install Scala, now you get Scala CLI. And you might say, okay, what is big? But if you think about this, I mean, there's sort of objective true and my feelings. So I will start with objective true, or I hope objective. I don't know. Also, let's get back to 2011 or 2015 or 17. When people think about Scala, it was like, oh, this is this kind of language that could like the worst tooling. Everything doesn't work. There's like this crazy SBT that I need to learn to start, whatever. Maven doesn't work. Back then, we solved all these problems. And if you look at this, what we have with Scala CLI, we pretty much just install a language. We don't need to do anything. We just need to put a few comments, and we can package applications, compile it to native, package it to like sort of a Docker image that you can do. You can pretty much, with just a language, deploy application to the production or publish your library. So, and also Scala CLI is really great for scripting. And it was designed to be a scripting tool. So I actually chatted in the kitchen about this. With Scala CLI and with Scala now, you can pretty much write your application, including all the scripts in Scala. And it got even better because let's say you do deployments. When you're writing your scripts in Scala CLI, Scala, then you can also refer your production code. So you can have a type safe migrations, or you can pretty much reuse parts of your application in your scripts. You can do whatever you like. And it happens, like in one of my teams that actually they switched to Bazel, that's not related, but they also realized they need to do something with the CI pipelines. And rather than using Bash, they started using Scala CLI and they love it so much, they never want to get back to writing Bash. And as you can see, people in the community also likes this. So yeah, if you haven't given it a try, please give it a try. And like, I was debating, should I do a demo? But I figured out, no, I'm a bit rusty now with like running all the tools, so I would just botch it out, so do it yourself, please. And also for me, this is like really important because as you can see, I'm the author of the proposal. And that was probably the last thing that I was hands-on involved with Scala. So that was a big part of my life. I can give you sort of like a story. I was hosting for my people. I was hosting a grill, so we were like having an offsite. But at the same time, I was supposed to have like quick call with people from Scala Center and whatever. And it turned out the call wasn't quick because they keep asking questions about Scala CLI. So I need to sort of throw a party, make a food, and defend Scala CLI at the same time. So yeah, it was fun. And yeah, this leaves us with sort of the situation where we are. That there is like two things that we can say about Scala. One is sort of, I think you won't object, but Scala is for sure the biggest functional programming language out there in terms of commercial use. There is nothing close. You might count TypeScript. If you do this second, still a good place. And the other thing is, out of these many programming languages that we have, we are one of the few, if not the only, depends when you want to put a cutoff, that is not owned by any kind of a giant corporation that has like huge campus in here. We are truly like community owned. Of course, there's like some stewards of the language. You got all four here, but there is no single one. And also, I will try to convince you in the next part of this talk that we also have like a proper procedures and changes and organization that even, let's say, one of the maintainers quits, wants to do something else, the language will survive. Do you have any questions to this point? Because then we go to sort of the second piece. So, how Scala is made? Yeah, go on.
Have you had discussions with Databricks about moving beyond Scala 2.12?
No, thank you.
I know that they, without small effort, not that far ago, migrated to 12. So they don't have a 2.11 anymore. So before they finish the migration to 13, it will be a long time ago. Especially that for me, Spark and Spark jobs is the perfect definition of abandonware software. You write it once and it lives for a long time. And there is something like this. And unfortunately, this is also a story of many bad experiences with Scala, because people in the big organization, the only piece written in Scala is Spark, and somebody wrote it down, and it stays for 5 years the same, and then somebody to change anything, and nothing works. So if we try to speak with Databricks, yes. If you can connect us, so they listen to us, please
They're only
do.
a few doors down, you know that.
They are also in many places, yeah, and there's like few really prominent community members like Lihoy that works in Databricks. I don't know, it's hard. If you can show me, if you can connect us, so we can maybe there will be more involved. Be my guest, please.
I have another question. So about the next LTS, what takes like so long to make a new LTS? What are the reasons? Or because I feel this Scala 3.3 doesn't have like the ideal Scala 3 experience, because the latest versions have like big changes that are important for inference and opaque types and etc. So it feels like it's taking too long for a new LTS.
Many says like, why do we want to have a new LTS at all? Because 3.3 is fine, and we don't want to introduce a new version. So I'm not saying that your question is wrong. I'm saying that there is a balance that we need to make here. And to be fair, I was like pushing that 3.0 should be LTS. Luckily, I was completely wrong because it was not ready to be LTS. And there was voices that we should not have LTS at all because everybody will catch up. So there's like a balance that we need to find. But the thing is about Scala 3 is that if you're a library author, that might be a problem because you will not have all these kind of nice things. But there's not that many that actually came from 3.3. It's more about like on this kind of things that are on the application side. And if you have an application on Scala 3, you can use nightly, and you should be fine. I mean, maybe not with nightly, but with the latest released version, you should be fine. Okay. So how Scala is made, and then I should show you like funny gift of like monkeys typing on keyboards, but I don't have one like this. So I will go straight to like boring slides with just text. And the first part, before you make something, you need to decide on something. Basically decide whether you want to do it. and whether if you want to evolve something to be to get a given feature. And for like Scala tree, the SIP community is something that gives Scala direction. Basically decides whether something goes into the language or not. And it's not like, it's close to people. It's anyone here can write a proposal and there is a chance that it will be accepted. So I can go through the team, but you can do it yourself. There is a link. I don't want to that's probably not that much interesting. But it's not like I just want to say with SIP committee, it's not like whatever Martin says goes into the language. There is a good chance if Martin proposes SIP, it will go into the language, but at least there is a process to do that.
Not always.
I'm looking at Bill all the time because he's longer from the community than I am. Then
Not all proposals by Martin go to.
yeah, I mean mine went in. Like the Scala CLI was quite debated, but it went in. So yeah. The latest one that was really nice was from my ex-team member. Now this is a member of Martin teams from Kacper about the changes in Fort. So we can start with assignments in Fort. Really small things, but helps a lot of people. Then sort of a new team that was just announced, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, is what we called a core team. And it's not like we just make it up. It's up there for a year, almost a year. It started early this year. But we want to give it a try to see if it works before we say it. And the core team is tasked with ongoing decision making, because there is a lot of things that goes in between decision of a single person and the SIP committee. What should go in the next Scala release? Should it be minor or major? Should we do LTS or something? And for that and all of the other stuff that's going away, there is a team of people. Maybe I can actually work. Yeah. So as you can see, there is a team of people from all of these organizations that I mentioned, and all of them actually have a role. That is somewhat important. And those people meet every week and decides of these ongoing issues. Team is not too big, not too small, so they can make decisions, but also I hope we represent most of the in parties that can make a point in decision making. And also we want to limit that to people that are somewhat, at least partially get paid for working on Scala. Because it's really hard to expect to get somebody from the community to spend each week 3 hours discussing. We really need to respect the times from the contributor. So yeah, there's a core team. And then since also somewhat starting this year, we have a product management and product manager in Scala. That's Piotr from VirtusLab, and his job, and I really admire him for the patience, is actually try to coordinate and force people to look at issues, prioritize them, assign them, and so forth and so on. And reintroduce, because it was the lifetime time when the compiler team was much bigger, it was sort of the same. It was reintroduced to Scala 3, and we try to be much more organized. Then there we have the compiler team. So it's sort of the muscle of the language, and the list is much longer. And those are all the people that either full-time or part-time, or as a part-time of their, task at the unit at APFL, contributing to the language or the surroundings. Because a lot of the things around the community are centralized around compiler team. And this leaves us with probably the most important part is the community. You might guess that all these people that I mentioned and all the teams do all the work. No, there's still a lot of work. Not only commenting, reporting issues, but also fixing that comes from the community. So those are the unsung hero of the Scala. And because of how much we get and also we really want to promote that, but it's really it's only due to those people that contributes back. I can double back the saying that the Scala is really community powered language, and that's the amazing part about this, and that's why I'm involved and I try to push hard actually. So the Scala is still out there. So thank you. If any of you contributed to the compiler or anything, thank you so much. You are the hero in this room.
Yes. So where's the standard library extensions or changes or fixes?
Standard library between Scala 2.13 and 3 is the same. It's literally the same.
But there have been changes since, right? So
it doesn't change that much.
yeah.
There is some things that gets added to Scala library because Scala 3 introduces a lot of things related to their like features in the language that gets added. Changing a standard library in the significant way is like a big ordeal. So we don't want to do this. We try to sort of, there is a project we want to unfreeze it, and that's in the making. I don't know, I don't know enough details how it will be done. Maybe it will be one of the things that comes into the LTS because there is a few things that we would like to change. But there is also secondary, work to expand the library that is called Toolkit. So we try to pre-select a bunch of libraries like JSON, something that probably is like way too specific for a library, but is really needed, and keep them aligned. And with Scala CLI, you can just say using toolkit true, and you will get the toolkit without thinking about versions. And the team is trying to coordinate the releases so it works and doesn't break, and so like the easy way. So it's like our approximation to get what Python does, because we really wanted to have this better included vibe. It's a bit hard right now to sort of retrofit it, but we try to do our best. Okay. So this goes to the releases, and I mentioned the organization, and that's also something that happens in Scala 3 in terms of releases. The releases are organized in the way that they are like time-based. So we are not waiting for like, I don't know how many features to be a part of it to release a patch or minor version. We try to like time-base them. And of course, there's like, there are like 6 to 12 weeks, let's say, between each other. Why not fixed amount of time? Because the stability. If there are bugs, if there are like, if something is not backwards compatible, we will not release Scala with that. And also to make sure that we keep this like, backwards compatibility, we have this kind of like 2-step of releases. So at every single release, 2 versions get released, like let's say 3.1.2 and 3.1.3 M1, which means like there is a stable version and there is like a version that is being for testing. So there is like full cycle to do the testing so people can play with milestones. And I ask the compiler team, like, what should I say? What is the message that you want to say? And the things I heard is like, please ask people to use LTSs, both for the next, so the latest version of Scala, and there is also LTS, nightly release for LTS. So basically something so we can spot problems and inconsistency as early as possible. Typo. Because LTS, it's also updated. It's not like every 6 to 12 weeks, because we just gather the things that we can be backported from next and do the release every 2 to 6 months. Or if we find a critical problem, then of course it will be like patch will be released earlier. Then LTSs, we talk about this, that they will come like every so many years. And there is an important thing that LTSs will be like overlapped. So there will be at least a year when we have like 3 maintained version of Scala 3. So if the new LTS come in, we will give the community at least a year to move on to the new LTS. If we will need more time of the support, because we can extend that, but at least a year. And also another thing there's a lot of things that getting into the compiler, and there was actually quite some rumors and like fear and doubt spread across new features getting into the compiler. I'm getting above the time. It's like,
you fine?
Okay. That's something breaking going to the compiler. Things get getting into the compiler even prior to SIP process, if I'm not mistaken, or not. Don't quote me on that. But under the experimental flag. So there is something that you cannot use in your code base, but there is many features in the language that out there that you can play with to see if they works, either in a stable version or not. And that's like sort of the last tool that we have to ensure the stability of the language and still grow it up. And believe me, I was there from just before the Scala 3 was released. To get to this balance, it was a long work to actually make sure that we find a compromise between like having a stability that community and enterprise needs, and there is a room for exploration, for research that a PFL people from a PFL needs. And actually, I'm actually quite happy with the balance at this moment.
So one of your earlier slides showed a 2-year time span for the LTS.
It was probably like a bit optimistic. I mean, yeah, it will be more.
But there will never be a time where so there's always at least one LTS version. That's what I understood from you. Maybe even 2 LTS versions.
Yes, there will be overlap between LTS for at least a year.
Okay.
Okay. And there is no Scala 2 in this picture. Is like Scala 2 end of life? No, it isn't. Scala 2.12 and 2.13 is still maintained, and I know that, and I heard that Lieben will maintain them for quite some time. There is no plans to stop any of those. However, if we're on 2.11, it is long time past due. So please migrate, please. And I about the end of because sort of a horror story when, I don't know, somewhere in the discussion, just at the beginning of Scala 2.3, one of the members of the compiler team said that Scala 3.0.0 is end of life. Just because technically it was, because we got 3.1, but getting out of the context would be actually, kill all of our efforts. So quickly reach out like, please delete that. People cannot see that because taken out of the context, it will be like, it will give like a fuel to people that were criticizing Scala 3 back then. And by releases, now it's much more than just a compiler. Because I don't know if you remember, there was this really nice talk many years ago. What happens after Scala is released? And why Sebastian Dore is the one that's blocking all the ecosystem for updating the new Scala version? Because basically everybody was cross-compiling, and before they can pick up a new Scala version, Scala.js and many other things needs to be released. It was a big of a problem because people see they can use a new Scala version and then their build breaks, there was no libraries and everything. So we take that into account, and right now we also use the time in between releases and the milestone to actually align. So it's one of the Piotr's job. That is why I actually, I think that he has like way too many patients. I hope that we'll keep that, because we need to. There's not all the projects here, but we need to make sure that all of the things on these slides and more are ready before we make an announcement. So if you see a Scala on the Maven Central, it might be not ready. If it's like announced, you should be able to just, update it in your project and it should just work. And with a Scala tree and backward compatibility and source compatibility, backward binary and source compatibility, you finally don't need to wait for your libraries to update because you can pick it up. So that's probably, I said last, and that's last thing I will mention why it's like last thing that we want to bring into the stability of the ecosystem. And it takes a lot of effort, and it's like the effort that you might not be seeing, but it's really important. And to be honest, I think that it is well spent time, and this kind of stability that we try to give, it weighs much more if we have, I don't know, much better macros or type system, because we have enough. I mean, I will mention that the latter part of my talk, but I think we have enough new fancy toys in the Scala tree that we only scratch the surface what can be done. So now the last part, how you can help. And making this presentation for like whenever I see you can help, this is like the first thing that comes to my mind. But then I realized probably this is the right picture for the US because it's like British. So let's change that for US version. But then when I was going through and I look all the pictures that use the same motif, I realized it is not something I want to refer to. It's always like, conscription and military service. Probably we don't want to avoid this. Luckily, I found the version that I will use from now. That is this one. That's apparently from 50s, and it was a campaign for people to get aware about using fires in the national parks in the US. And that's kind of really nice, it corresponds to what I want to say next, because there's one thing, because all of the things I will say after that is sort of, an optional. It's sort of, I'm asking you, could you do this? But there is one thing that is mandatory. please be nice to everybody around in the community. Like respect other points of view, and I know it's hard, but it's really important to think or say sorry if you are misunderstood, because like you probably all know we get way too many. A lot of people actually was hurt because of what other people said online in our community, and so that is why this is a mandatory. Please respect code of conduct and be nice to each other. And I will remind you about this a few times.
Is that going to be the Scala mascot?
I just found it right today. So maybe no. There was discussion about Scala mascots. I mean, as you can see, there is this kind of these two guys that are quite old, and there was never like catch up. There was about to be like Kitty and Scalaniel. Maybe we will do it. I mean, mascots are usually a hard topic because everybody got opinion. So I don't know. Maybe one day. And yeah, so the first things I would like, that's sort of an optional, is like, please share your Scala story with people around you. I'm also like, when I remember the community in 2016, 2017, 2014, everybody was like so proud about Scala. I mean, I remember my friends like in IT was telling me, I don't want to talk to you because you took Scala too much. And we as a community was like so proud with our code. We were like so eager to explore and share our knowledge. Then actually it goes sort of off balance because people try to figure out that we need to be smarter and show like newest version of the monad. It's not bad by itself, but it was the kind of thing that we need to be really, do something exceptional to be shown. And there was sort of a pandemic where we are always closed. There was dramas and everything. And I get the feeling that we sort of lost it as a community. Maybe not completely, but we are not so happy about the language, what we can do. I mean, I remember like it was like when I was talking to my friends and they was in Java, I was like walking like this, like, proud that I can have more tools. But probably it might be a little bit offensive to them, but what I want to say is that we really need more of that. And especially that we have all the tools right now at our disposals because we have this beautiful Scala tree that is, I will get back to the Scala story. But the example from a few days, like Łukasz was actually, there was like a cut of Occam, sorry, this is a Scala conference, so Scala meetup. But basically you write some nice piece in Occam in Scala, and the responses to that was like, yes, Scala is beautiful, because Scala is beautiful. It's like for me, it's like the most elegant and the most like expressive language out there that you can get paid for when you are using it. So, the double bonuses.
What was the code quoted in the first tweet, or you don't have that?
There was. Maybe I can find the link later.
Oh, okay.
But there was an Occam, but you wouldn't fit it in the slide, so I cut it off. Sorry.
Oh, good.
I mean, you can find it off. It was like it was nice, but it got like nested lets, so it wasn't that. Scala is much more readable. Anyway, so yeah, be inspired. Like Software Mill is doing this kind of nice series about people. We don't need to do this, but share your Scala story. But remember, like, be nice to others. And then the next things that you can do is like tell, like, of course, others libraries, but tell us the core team what is not working, what you have problems with. And I ask the team, like, can I say that? Are you open for people coming with more problems? And they say, yes, please. Even though we like spend a lot of time with replying to questions and everything, because we need to know what's going on. And also, this is like the slide I almost forgot to add, and the QR code, because the team is also running something that we call Scala Maintenance Survey. And because we really want to learn from actual people that get hurt from Scala or like managing Scala teams, what is problematic from their perspective. We want to listen their voice, because in the end, like it's the project managers, CTOs, engineering leads that decide that the Scala is turned off. And if somebody did that and decide that we don't want to Scala, we want to learn what is the problematic, or even better, if the people are facing problems, we want to learn before. And I have a specific story that I can tell about this, because except for there's too many QR codes in this slide, because we are doing this kind of free offering. It's all about there because we want to get and look at the code base. Let me tell you the story and you will see why. So the company called Mui, they almost migrated to Scala 3 and they reached out to us. And the problem they actually faced huge compilation time degradation. Like let's say one of the modules compiled for like 2 minutes. After the migration, it was compiling for like 20. So it was like, really deal breaker. And they had no idea what's going on. They figure out they can reach out to help, so they reach out. Or we just met at the conference, I don't remember. Anyway, we get in touch and we actually were able to debug stuff. And that was kind of a complex problem with the types. Is actually there's a story about this, so you can go and read. I don't want to go into details because, to be honest, I don't exactly know what was broken back then. But they were like no chance to actually figure out the bug because compiler internals are quite complex. And people that were working from the team and got the access to their code base were able to pinpoint the problem. And after a really hard battle, they were sort of able to almost reproduce it completely. And this led that we can fix the problem. And the problem is there for everybody. But for like most of the code bases, it affects, I don't know, adds 1 second to the compilation, which is like not noticeable. And without this tool, without like being able to go and talk and actually play and see the problems, we would be able to solve it. That is why even though, it's like the team spends actually looking at somebody else's code bases or like helping somebody others to migrate, you might say, okay, they could work on Scala, but what we get before and how the compiler and the community can change is actually this much more work. And then, if you face a problem, please try to fix it. And I know it's like, and you will say, okay, I don't want to spend nights. I got like, family, a hobby, whatever. But you can at least try. And I can give you a story. One of our teams, there was some problem. They migrated to Scala 3 and there was like some problems. It was like annoying, quite specific to their code base. And one of the people from our team actually figured out, like from that team that's working for that client, figure out, okay, I think I can try to fix this. And he did something that is sort of, that not many people will do, because he asked at this kind of panic, hey, we have this problem. I reported it to the team and they are like quite busy with like some release was going on back then. So can I try to fix it myself at work? And the answer was, to his surprise, yes, you can do this. We got 2 days, try to fix it up. And he fixed it up. And he'll figure out, okay, good, that was a nice perk. And then the next week, actually, there is some kind of, a praising going on, whatever. And the manager says, like, the best thing that happened last week was that fix. And then he realized that, not only he fixed the problem with the compiler, do something nice, he actually, because he is not a senior developer, he's like a mid-level developer, he actually, in the eyes of the kind of team lead, actually grew a lot. So he actually, the fixing of the problem with the compiler was quite good for his career. It might not happen to every one of you, but you can at least try. Because if you think about an open source, like you don't pay for open source, but it means you share some of the responsibility. You don't need to do anything, but if you can, please do. And please support your local community. I mean, this is the time where I need to say big kudos to the team at the Iterable for hosting us here, for Scala organizing this. Because that's a big work, and especially I was organizing meetup for quite a while myself. And when you set up a meetup and it's really hard, and you miss that there is like some kind of championship going on the sports that you do not follow, and there's only 5 people showing up, that is really depressing. I hope it will not happen to you, but it happens to many organizers. And the fact that we can, talk and meet and sort of inspire one another is because of the hard work. So like local communities are key. And you can actually see like people are asking me why, there are so many Scala developers in Poland, because we had local communities. Like we are running Scala meetups since 2013, 14 at Krakow and other places. So, this actually like compounds and over the time actually makes that people get interested. And when there are people, the companies are coming. When there are companies coming, there's more people, and it all started up. And many things started with the local communities. And of course, I need to say that there is a Scala Center. I'm not saying that any of you need to donate. There is an option to donate. But if you get an option for your company to become a membership and support the Scala Center, at least try. Because, that's the way that that you can help the community. And Scala Center right now needs some help, needs some love, and they are doing stuff that are not really rewarding in many ways, because a lot of the moderation, governance, and a lot of blame that shouldn't be on them was actually put on them. So yeah, they need some love from us. And the last thing that you can do is basically there's some companies that works around Scala. Let me start with JetBrains. JetBrains team that maintain Scala plugin, it's sort of quasi-related to to how they compute, how they make how many licenses from professional teams are getting to the companies are being paid. So if there are, like, say, companies paying for 100 licensing and they're using Scala plugin, then there is like some kind of percentage. So just if you can, just mention that you should thank them for Scala plugin, whatever, just to keep that link, so they keep investing in there and they see that the community is in there. Of course, there's like the Lightband. So if you can work with Lightband, that probably you could work with Lightband. And also, like, what I'm doing at VirtusLab, a lot of the kind of on our commercial side, I mean, you would be surprised how much goes into maintaining all these things. So if you can, if you're looking for vendors, goes for not only for us, but if you see that you're like, you know somebody from a company that contributes to open source, it's probably better to work for somebody that contributes to open source, because that helps the community grow. And there are like, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's many, organization and everything that just, provide services or whatever, and are not so keen to support the community. So if you can choose, pick one that provides to the community. And that's it. That's all what I have. I hope that was interesting and you learn at least a little bit, because it wasn't technical. Sorry for that. I don't know if you have questions. I can answer any.
I got one question. So you had the slide, try fix it yourself. Actually, what's the process actually? I once contacted an engineer from the Scala compiler team. Say I run into a problem, I create a GitHub for that with a fix or so. Do you have an email address? Is there a mailing list, or what is the next process then? How would I approach?
I mean, the best way probably would be to open an issue. Then there's like the open forums like Discord.
Okay.
So probably a Discord is a good place to talk.
Okay.
We don't host any kind of like open hours. Maybe we should, when people can show up and talk.
Okay.
I can ask my team if they want to do this. If not, you can contact me and I will contact you. We don't want to also expose too much of this kind of open direct communication channels, because most of the people are friendly, some people are not. So you want to sort of put some kind of process in front of that. Mm-hmm.
How is it with the Scala releases with the Java releases? Because Java's now coming up with the cadence every 6 months, there's a new version, and were there any issues with like testing new versions of Java against the Scala?
I mean, there's not that many things, because Java is quite a good citizen, but there's not that many things that breaks between Java versions. If you are just a user, if you are not using, like, if you want to run in the higher JVMs. What is like kind of important is like sort of minimal version. Because, for example, 12, if I'm not mistaken, the main point of actually using 2.12 was to move to this new encoding for lambdas. I think it was 2.12. And the same goes like 2.21, Java 21 introduced like many good things like Project Bloom. So we are debating whether we should, like, when Scala should force users to use Java 21. Because one of the things that we sort of was blocking us with a lot of progress, and especially on the tooling side, was the minimal version of Java. Like, for example, there was like we need to fork Loop for Scala CLI, because maintainers of other users of Loop was not ready to force everybody to use Java 17. And with Loop, there is a problem, or there was a problem, that because it was like HTTP server, so you have like a situation when you have like one machine used by many users, and you open a port that's global. So in theory, like other users can like log in, see the port, open the port, figure out this bloop, and try to compile stuff, including like and putting in like some kind of malicious code. So it was like theoretically there was a vector of attack and was also not really stable. So you want to switch to sort of named types. Yes, and they were not natively supported until Java 17. So there was a long process to get loop to Java 17. Now everybody's on Java 17, but there is an option to backtrack to Java 8. So yes, we need to pay attention to new versions of Java, and we will keep doing that. That is why this is what Liven also promises with their own releases, that they will try to keep up with the newer version of Java. But we are not that much tied to what Java offers. And at one point, we just want to maybe force people to use the higher version of Java. Because I know that there's many people still using Java 8 right now, but probably you should start. Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much, Krzysztof.